welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very exciting video. I've got my stats written out and I have my humongous pile of books. So I'm gonna get started. First of all, let's go through the stats. So in November, which I had my October stats as well beforehand, and I realised I read like hardly any books in October, so I've now managed to read 11 books, which, wow, round of applause to me, because I am not that girly. I'm not that girly, no, but 11 books. So the genres that we had 4 from romance, 4 lit fic, 3 mystery/thriller. Out of all of those, 2 of them were YA, and I listened to 3 of them on Audible. So, wide range this month, and I've really enjoyed it. And also some of the lit fic have like elements of romance, but I'll get into that. I've read so many books, my page count has nearly doubled, I think, from last month, and I have read 5,107 pages. And out of my TBR here, I have read all 7. I'm just so proud. So proud. What you will notice in the first book I'm going to talk about is for my TBR video, if you remember, I put the Dragonfly Pool on as my oldest book on my TBR, and I have had to replace that with P.S. I Love You, because I sat down to read the Dragonfly Pool and I had read it before, and so I was like, I can't read it again, I don't want to read it again, so we've switched it out with like the next oldest book. So let's get started. The first book we're gonna be looking at today is P.S. I Love You. So this story is about a woman who sadly lost her husband to cancer, and she receives letters from him which he's written previously and she didn't know about each month, and they've got like little tasks on of things to do, and she then has to complete the tasks. And because they're from him, she finds that this is her last kind of step or trial to stay close to him. This is her last kind of connection, and so she really feels like highly inclined to continue on with those tasks. And so a lot of the jobs and stuff like that which she's been putting off, so I think one of them was like find a job, she now feels compelled to do. So yeah, really enjoyed this book, flew through it, which if you saw my oldest versus newest vlog, I have more in detail thoughts there. Gave this one 4 stars. Like I said, really enjoyed it. It was an easy read, fun time, and it made me cry at the end. So yeah, 4 stars. I'm looking forward to reading the sequel this month because it's in my TBR. The next book that we read, I should have stacked these in order and it would have been easier, but I didn't. The next book I read was After We Collided. I actually listened to this story. This is the second book in the After series by Anna Todd. I can't say too much about the series, and so I'm just going to leave you with it's 3 stars. It was a continuation on of the story, and I really enjoyed it. The next book I read was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book, I'm sure most people have heard about it now. This book is about the lady Miss Evelyn Hugo, and it's her finally selling her life story. And so you go through her life with her 7 different marriages to the 7 husbands, and you talk about, so she was a movie star, so you talk about kind of everything she's seen, what she's heard, and it was really interesting. It was proper old Hollywood feeling. It was quite a cozy vibe, and yeah, there was a little twist at the end which I wasn't expecting, and I did really enjoy. But yeah, 4 stars for the 7 husbands, and I am looking forward to continuing the series. I do have Malibu Rises, however I've heard that reading Daisy Jones and the Six next is the best order to go in, and so I'm going to try and read that one first. The next book we're going to talk about is The Family Upstairs. I spoke about this one in my Reading Thrillers for a Week vlog, so I won't go too much into detail here. However, this story is about a woman who inherits a house from long lost family. She was adopted as a child, so it's from her biological family, and in this house 25 years ago 3 people looked to have committed suicide, and it's about her going to visit the house and finding out what really happened. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I'm looking forward to reading the second one. I did find that it wasn't actually that thrilling. It was more, to me it felt more of a mystery, because you knew obviously that the suicides or the dead people, who, or not who they were, but that they were found and stuff. So yeah, really enjoyed it and would recommend, and I'm looking forward to reading the next one in the series. Next book I'm going to talk about is the book that, if out of all the books I have spoken about, you go away and read one of them, it is this book. It was a 5-star read. I ate it up. It was in my reading thrillers for a week vlog, so some of you will probably know what it was already, but I ate it up. It kept me on my seat. I live alone in a student accommodation, so I was terrified. I had to go and double check my door was locked pretty much every night reading this. The Woman in Cabin 10. I will not shut up about this book. I have never read a thriller like it. It kept me gripped. I was engaged. I loved every second of it, and I went into it completely blind. Literally on the back it just says what it's been nominated for, that it was an instant New York Times, US Today and Los Angeles Times bestseller. It's been chosen for loads of awards. You've got some blurbs, and that honestly is all I want to leave it at, really. It's based on a fancy yacht or boat it's on its maiden voyage with PR, and this woman hears some loud noises and thinks she sees a body get thrown overboard, and you are continuing on from there. Honestly, absolutely incredible. Everyone should read this book. Okay, the next book I read was Grown Ups by Marianne Keyes. I listened to this one on audiobook, and I think in doing that I gave it a disservice. I really struggled with this audiobook. It was narrated by Marianne Keyes, who has a strong Irish accent, and so I really struggled understanding at some points what she was saying. It's about 3 women who are married to 3 brothers, and they're very different. They have very different personalities. The men are all very different. They lead very different lives, but yeah, it's going through family occasions where they all seem to meet up together. However, the story starts with a scene towards the end where secrets are being spilled, and it causes family drama, and so you're going through the story, like getting to know the characters and building up to these moments. Now, the point of views changes, and there's lots of characters, because some characters have children, some characters have like friends and family, and honestly, listening to it on audiobook, I really struggled with that at certain points. I think I got to about the 80% mark and started working out who everyone was and like piecing it all together, and so it all made sense, which meant when the final scene like re-happened and you heard like the secrets and everything come out, I understood it to an extent. However, yeah, I did really enjoy it, and I gave it 3 stars, and I thought it was a good book, and I do think maybe if I'd have read it, it might have been easier to digest. I just wasn't a massive fan, and like each of the chapters, and because I thought maybe in the book when the chapters change point of view it will have like the name with it, but it didn't, and so I'm not sure. Obviously I didn't read it, but I'm thinking maybe I would have struggled with it at the same time. But yeah, 3 stars. It was a good story and it was a good plot line. I just think there was just a lot of people, and I think realistically I needed a family tree to see where everyone was so I could at least map it all together. But it was an interesting premise. I don't think I'll be reading any of Marianne Keyes' books again. However, she is a very good author, and you can see that from this story. Okay, the next book I read was We'll Always Have Summer. I finally finished this trilogy. Woohoo! 3 stars. Same again. I'm not going to go too much into the story because again it's the final book in the trilogy. If you don't know what it's about, it's following a young girl called Belly, and she holidays in Cousins in America with her mum, brother, and her mum's best friend and her 2 sons, and She has romantic feelings for one of the sons, and it's just basically a very easy, feel-good summer book about her navigating this romance and navigating life with the two older brothers on her mum's best friend side, and as well her older brother, and just seeing how those relationships kind of develop and blossom, and like you see some of her best friend as well. And it's got a beautiful, beautiful setting. I have said throughout the whole series, these books have been about 3 stars. They haven't necessarily been for me. Belly is really infuriating, and that's something that I've seen across reviews as well. But I have enjoyed my time reading them. I am looking forward to the series coming out, because series 3 is meant to be coming out next year, and I have really enjoyed the first 2 series. I wouldn't recommend to an older reader. I think if you're in your teenage years, I think when my niece becomes like 14, 15, around this age, and if she's still really enjoying reading, these are the books that I would recommend to her and go, oh, these books, I read these and they were good. Would I recommend them to someone my age, even 18, 19, 20? It depends on your reading taste. Now, I don't mind YA, and I think especially like YA fantasy or thriller, I can understand a lot more. However, YA romance, I'm not always behind, and I think these books have really shown me that. And so 3 stars, middle of the road. I think the writing style is good if you're a younger reader. But yeah, I would, like I said, I would recommend for a younger audience and not necessarily an audience around my age. Okay, the next book I read, I Heart New York. I gave this one 4 stars. I think upon reflection, it's maybe more of a 3. It was a really good story, and it's about this woman called Angela. I just wanted to double check. And she finds out she gets cheated on at her best friend's wedding, and she flees the country, and she flies over to America, and she lands in New York. And it's about her life and how she navigates that life in New York, and dating and meeting new people and making friends and like getting a new job. And it's all about her life traveling New York and seeing New York, and it's such a good vibe, and it's an easy read. The chapters are so long, and honestly I thought this book was bad, and then as you'll see in a minute, I picked up the second book, and the second book there was even less chapters and even more pages, and I'm just like, I can't be doing with chapter length more than like 6 or 7 pages. I'm a short chapter person, and I just love them. I'm like, I need the short chapters to keep me going, to keep me interested, and these just weren't it. However, I did really enjoy the story. Is it realistic? No. Did I read it thinking, oh, that could be me in the future? No. Did it make me hope to maybe one day completely do this with my life? Absolutely. It's never going to happen, and it's highly unlikely. But I really enjoyed it nonetheless. The next book I read was a sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, so that was Good Girl, Bad Blood. And I enjoyed this one more than the first book. So the first book, you're following Pip investigating a murder case that has been kind of closed, and it happened a few years ago. However, she doesn't believe that the person who was convicted, who then later went on to commit suicide, is the person who is guilty. And so you're following her just going through this case as part of her schoolwork. Now, the second book, you're following the same girl, Pip, doing a missing persons case and trying to find that person and going through the series. And I really enjoyed that more. I thought the stakes were higher. In the first book, obviously you understood that the 2 people that were the main kind of people in the story that she was looking for were already dead. And so you knew that wasn't going to change. Whereas in the second book, you're really looking for that person, and I'm like, the stakes are higher, and I really got into it. And so therefore I gave this one 4 stars. And I'm not sure what the third book follows the premise, but I'm hoping it's a bit more of a live active case or an active scenario than it is an old one. The reason she picked up this missing persons case was because it was her friend's brother, and she created a podcast from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder case. And so he said, came to her saying, like, if we put it on your podcast, it will meet more people. And so yeah, I really, really enjoyed that one. The next two books I actually finished today. So I'm filming this on the 29th, a day early, but I'm busy tomorrow, and I was like, I'm not going to finish any more books in this time because I probably won't start and finish one tonight. So I finished these both today. The next book, as I mentioned earlier, was the I Heart Hollywood. I also gave that one 4 stars. Now, I enjoyed that one a lot more than the first book because it's in a new setting. It's following a slightly different character. She is talking to a movie star within it, and so I thought that kind of premise and that concept was really, really interesting, and seeing her navigate like friendship breakdowns and then rebuild them, and then relationship issues, because within the first book she ends on a very happy, loved up note, and I think if you read the first book you could get away with it being a standalone. So in the second book, obviously that relationship had to go through turmoil, otherwise there would be no storyline in that sense, and so you see her navigate that, and I just found it really, really interesting. And the final book of the video is none other than After We Fell by Anna Todd. This absolute brick. I bought it on Audible, the audiobook, because it's 24 hours on Audible. But I listen to my audiobooks around 2.5, 3 times speed. This audiobook I could listen to 3.5 times speed because I know the story, and I just found the characters are really easy to understand what they're saying. I didn't fly through this book. I gave this book 3 stars. I struggled with this story, and I don't know why. I think it was just a lot, and then it ended on a cliffhanger, which I knew anyway because I've seen the films. But yeah, it was a lot. It was such a big book, and I don't know why, and I don't know what, I feel bad saying that, but the films, I feel like in this instance the films are portraying it in a better light. Now, I'm not sure whether the books are so big because it was created on Wattpad, and so as you're going through and you're writing it, you're not necessarily seeing how much you've written in book format. I'm not sure. I do think we could have lost a good 200-300 pages from this story and it still makes sense. You see some redemption in the characters, however they're still like, they're obviously Harden, if you know the story, he's still morally grey. It just, yeah, it was a good book. It was an easy listen. And I think if I hadn't have listened to it on Audible and listened to the book, I wouldn't have got through it as quickly as I did. I just don't think I would ever have wanted to pick this up. I got these books cheap, and no wonder they feel like they've not been read, because I cannot imagine sitting there and reading them. So yeah, right, that is all the 11 books I read this month. Gosh, that's a lot. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was very cozy for me. I'm in my Christmas pajamas with my Christmas tree on, my Christmas beddings on, ready to go in a minute. And yeah, I've just really enjoyed reading this month. I have really found the swing of reading. I've wanted to read a lot more in my spare time, and I'm looking forward to December. If you've seen my December TBR, you'll know I've given myself 10 books on my TBR, and so I'm really looking forward to reading them. And I just look forward to reading even more. Like, I'm really excited about the next few books I'm picking up, because obviously I know what they are. My next video is going to be a reading vlog, so I hope you look forward to that. Make sure you like the video, comment your favourite book from November down below, and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to seeing you next week in my new video, and have a lovely, lovely week. See you later.